Finally, my custom Green Goblin is in the house to join my Spidey collection right behind me. If you guys recall, I actually sold my Sideshow premium format. So today, we're going to find out if I made the right decision. Hey guys, thanks for tuning into the Extreme channel. My name is Mr. X. We're about extreme collectibles. Right behind me is a big Spider-Man statue display. Today we are adding this custom, which means it's a private unlicensed commission, Green Goblin to that display. So this is 1/4 scale. And if you're a follower of the channel, you know that I used to own the Sideshow Green Goblin premium format, which was also 1/4 scale, which I thought is a great piece, especially for an older piece. And this piece right here, there's actually a little bit of controversy we're going to talk about today. And I got to tell you, I open a lot of statues, a couple a year. And this one, I was really excited as I was taking it out of the box. And we're going to talk about a lot of those reasons in the review today. So if you're unfamiliar with who Green Goblin is, I'm not really sure why you're watching this, unless you're here to see me. What's up? So Green Goblin is one of the arch nemesis of Spider-Man. That's it. There's a lot more information, but we're not going to talk all about that today. We're going to talk specifically about this statue. We're going to do an extreme review using extreme 1/5 scale on different things like paint and sculpt. And there's just so much crazy stuff. So let's just dive right in because there is a lot to cover about this piece. So Green Goblin, what I really like about this piece, the concept specifically, is they really went all Green Goblin. They displayed every part of him, and that includes a number of different display options. As you can see, there's actually another display, a torso display, where you can switch out heads and arms, and we'll talk more about that in design. But here at the bottom, the base is what assumably is like the marble top of some building that is toppled over. Not only is it toppled over because he has destroyed it, but there are pieces seemingly flying in midair. You actually see the torso of one of the statues right here in midair. And he's on his classic glider, throwing pumpkin bombs because that's what he does. That's how he rolls. He's throwing pumpkin bombs in an extremely dynamic position, which we'll talk about. That was kind of some of the controversy towards this piece, is the position he's in. His glider is blowing out smoke in the back. He has a sinister look on his face. You assume he's attacking Spider-Man. We'll see how he looks paired next to Spider-Man. I'll talk about that in a second. But it's awesome. It's classic Green Goblin. It's exactly what you want. It's him on his glider. It's him throwing pumpkin bombs. It's him blowing shit up. Now really quick, I want to talk about in concept, I want to talk about the shape of his body. Now I'm not going to demonstrate how I would throw a 20-mile-per-hour baseball here, but a lot of people were really upset at how he's twisted. Assumably, because there's a pumpkin bomb right here, is he just threw this. Now he's grabbing his the front, sicko, of the glider right here, where one of the switch outs, it's more he's in mid-throw. That is probably how your body would twist when you're throwing. So I think it's extremely accurate. And while it doesn't look normal, that's kind of the weird position you're at. I challenge you to slow-mo a baseball throw the next time you see it. But I love the dynamic aspect of this statue. I love how it's going to look faced off. If you want to see what he's going to look like in my collection, I'm going to put him right next to a custom hobgoblin. Make sure to check out the Extreme Channel Facebook page. I put the link in the description below. Make sure you not only follow that, but like it as well. So I think for Green Goblin, it hits every nail on the head for me personally, especially with some of the switch outs. I think the concept's a 5 out of 5. I like the fact that he's on the glider throwing pumpkin bombs that look like they're suspended in air. The shit he's broke up is suspended in air. There's this awesome smoke and fire coming out of the back, which, kind of a spoiler, looks amazing. But now let's talk about the design of this piece, and this is where it gets both positive and one huge negative. But first, I'll get the dimensions for you guys. So on the base, the widest point is probably about under 19 inches. And the depth is probably about 12 inches. But as you can see, the flame adds another good 7.5 inches. And then the wings on the side probably add another 5 inches or so. And the tallest point, which is probably his arm, it maybe is a little over 2 feet. So I think this will present a few display options because you don't know how you want to look at it. Whether you're looking at just the front, then you miss some of the stuff on the back. The side here, you miss his full portrait. Now before we dive into a couple of these things here, take a look at the unboxing. Unbelievably large and heavy box, which explains why the shipping was so much, but I'm glad that they used my box as a stepping stool as well right here. Here's the art box, pretty cool, had different portraits of Goblin on each side, and it was the classic black foam with straps inside of it, which consisted of 2 different layers. One layer had most of the smaller pieces, while the other layer, shockingly, had the bigger pieces, and here are most of the pieces all laid out on the table for the assembly.
Non più tra I farfalloni amoroso, notte e giorno di torno girando, delle belle turbando al riposo, Narcisetto a dolcino d'amor. Delle belle turbando al riposo, Narcisetto a dolcino d'amor. Non più avrai questi bei panacchini, quel cappello leggero galante, quella chioma, quell'aria brillante, quel vermiglio d'onesco color, quel vermiglio d'onesco color, non più avrai quei panacchini.
So as you saw in the assembly, the big issue is there's a key right here on the glider that fits into a keyhole. Mine's not even close. It's a good ½ inch, if not more, away. This is what it is, so everything's not sitting in flush. I probably could try and manipulate it with the hairdryer. The hairdryer I use constantly at the office to make sure it looks good just burnt out on me. So that's the one big negative. I give them a lot of props how it looks like he just broke this statue. Take a look at this. So the statue is actually attached to the glider, but it looks like it's suspended in midair. And the same thing can be said about the pumpkin bomb he threw right up here. It almost looks as if it's in midair. Huge props to them on that. Then the switch out are huge props as well. So his right arm can be holding the front of the glider. And again, this looks like it was just in mid-throw. He can be swinging to his left just like he threw the pumpkin bomb. I like both equally. They both go with the dynamic aspect of the statue. His left arm can be holding a pumpkin bomb, or it can be holding a mask. Now obviously if it's holding his mask, you wouldn't want to display this mask portrait right here. This is with his mouth closed, still has a sinister Green Goblin look on his face. This is kind of the classic. Then they have that also available with his mouth open. But you could display it if you wanted to, kind of with this futuristic mask, more of a modern armored type mask. I do like this other than the fact it's not classic Green Goblin. Or he has an unmasked Osborne Head, which I like as well, but again I think it takes away from the fact that it's the classic Green Goblin. So even though the classic Goblin aren't my favorite portraits, I think I like these two better. I'm probably going to display that because I want a classic Green Goblin, but I love the fact they gave you another torso display. So you can display the switch out arms on here, and it's kind of this futuristic high-tech glider with the same symbol in the front, some modernized pumpkin bombs on the side, so it flows really well. And it's kind of the exact same stance with the torso because of the way you put the arms on. I think that makes sense, but a cool little extra to have with this piece. So one other thing with design that honestly I don't like is right here, they kind of sculpted their name into it. Usually they do it on the bottom, which you saw a sticker on the bottom. I'm actually not a fan of this. And I have a lot of pieces from this particular group, and they always do a fantastic job, so I'm wondering if they're going to do that in the future, but I guess I'll find out. So on the design, I think this is fixable somehow. If it's fixable, I think that I'm going to give this a 4 out of 5 because it's very dynamic, very cool. If it's not fixable, it's at best 3 out of 5. But like I said, I think it's fixable, so we'll go 4 out of 5 on the design because this is pretty elaborate. This is a very dynamic, in-motion statue, and there was some really smart design and engineering behind a lot of this, plus all the cool different switch outs. We are giving away these two Mortal Kombat statues by PCS, one at the 15,000 sub giveaway, the other at 17,500. To enter, just comment on this video. This is one of the videos we may pick for a random comment. Also, make sure you have liked this video, you subscribe to the channel, and you've hit that bell notification. So we're going to do a video for the paint and sculpt, and as a spoiler, it's very good. It's very good. That's why I was so excited when I started unboxing it. I was like, damn, some of this looks really good, with 1 or 2 exceptions that we'll look at as well. Let's start with this secondary bust display or torso display right here. It looks great. I love the metallic feel of it. Look at the pumpkins. Very cool. Not only on the shiny paint, it's shiny but not shiny at the same time, but the sculpt of that is phenomenal. It's an awesome display. So his costume is very similar. We'll look at it right here. It makes it a little bit easier. But I love how you have this difference of textures. Almost one's like a diamond-like pattern, one's a line pattern with a little bit darker green and some larger seams in between. His anatomy is pretty good. He's pretty bulky. Look at the purple costume, another different texture layer, almost looks like this padded leather type layer on his gloves, the seams up here. You see very few folds in this, but most of it outlines around his anatomy. There's some folds where he's twisting, so that was really smart with the motion of the statue. Here's a close-up of the mask. Not a fan of right here where the eye holes and the mouth hole were. I think that's a little bit of a miss. Let's look at the Osborne head. This is done really well. I'm probably not going to display it too much. They did the classic red and brown hair at the top, classic Osborne haircut. His facial expression is fantastic. This is great anatomy and paint and sculpt on here. Look at the detail. You see a little bit of green in the veins, which I like because the Green Goblin serum inside of him. Check out his mouth. What's interesting here is you're going to find like the paint on the teeth is really well done, and even around the eyes, but some of the goblin teeth is a little bit different. So a little bit, I don't want to say sloppy, but it's almost like someone else was painting these. See the paint on that teeth? The rest of it looks fantastic. Look at those beady eyes. Again, that same texture around the hood that you see on the other purple parts. And even with the mouth open, not the best open mouth paint job I've ever seen. Paint could have been a little cleaner. I'm just not a fan of the way the teeth look, or even how the red parts of the gums mix with the tongue. That's probably the weakest part of the paint on the statue, but the rest you're gonna see is phenomenal. Look at this marble-like building base. The cracks in it, the sculpt on this is amazing. I love the cracks, the texture, and then they have a mix between those darker gray-black shadow colors and almost like this off-white. And even the statues here, I mean, there's a ton of detail where there doesn't need to be. Look at that. Really good job on the base here. So let's take a look at this flame. This flame is awesome. This is probably one of the best flames I've ever seen. I like how it's that translucent resin that turns into a cloudy, thick. It's probably still resin on the end, but obviously takes away that translucency. The paint on here is fantastic, and the transition is just done really well. The glider, I like how it has all these scuffs on it. I like the color they used. Where I remember Sideshow's almost looked a little plasticky. This does not. It looks like real metal. They did a great job on the glider, both the design of it and then also the paint. On Goblin himself, you're going to see a lot of the same. His shoes kind of have this metal aspect on them, these little elf shoes, the same texturized material. Like I said, looks like this very thick leather, almost maybe some armor to it. The green parts, same thing we saw earlier. Pumpkin bombs, look at the translucent resin on here. It would be cool if that lit up, and especially the back smoke here. I think that would have taken it to the next level. Here's the modern mask, more of an armored. I would have liked to see a second torso that was completely armored, that you could switch out. That would have been neat as well. And his satchel here, man purse, cool little pumpkin on it. It looks good. I've seen better sculpted leather before. I think maybe there needed to be some more definition right there. The paint job's pretty clean. I like how it does secure to him. So a lot of really, really great stuff on here. I like around his neck, that kind of pattern. So starting with the paint, as I said, really like the paint, really everywhere. I love the paint. I love the paint on the base, the glider, especially this flame like we talked about. His costume's very clean. But the classic goblin teeth, I think that's where a little bit of improvement was needed. But for that little of an issue, I think the paint overall is a 4 out of 5 as well. Very well done, very impressive on the paint. This is bordering 5 on 5, but it's hard for me to give a factory paint job a 5 out of 5 when I've seen so many professional paint jobs. Regarding the sculpt, I like Green Goblin a lot. He's a lot bulkier than I usually see him, but I don't mind that as much. It's not necessarily like a bad sculpt, it's just a different style. I think the sculpt in the base is fantastic. I think the Sculpt is borderline of 5 as well, but I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. So value on this piece, you saw that huge box. That huge box cost me damn near $500 to ship. So that completely, in my opinion, almost destroys the value on this, because if I ever wanted to resell it, I would have to pay probably not $500 in shipping, but quite a bit more. So the statue itself was right around $1,000, I believe. I have it in my notes, but my notes are recording me right now. So that plus the shipping puts us at a $1,500 statue. You know, Sideshow's version is pretty good, and I could do an Extreme Rumble, and that would definitely win in value because it's a fantastic Green Goblin statue. This is much better, but is it over 2 times as good? I don't think it is, so I don't think the value is fantastic on this. I think it's 3 out of 5. I think you're going to have a hard time selling this in the secondary market, especially with like XM Studios coming out with their Green Goblin. But I think this is a superior based off the pictures I've seen, and definitely a superior based off the Sideshow. And the age-old adage, you do get what you pay for, and this is extremely rare as well. They've only made 50 of these. And Spider-Man collections are huge, so I think certain people would pony up the money. So I think I can get my money back if I was patient on this, so that reason the value is a 3 out of 5. Now, does this statue have the X factor? That's a tough one. You know, I'm not a huge Green Goblin fan by any means. I really wanted to complete my Spidey collection, but this is a really poppin' statue. I did a recent countdown of my top Spidey pieces. Right here, you can actually check it out. This guy would definitely be in the top 5, possibly the top 3. I'm really impressed with him. I don't think he's a grail, but he's a rail. Statue people would really want. I like this guy a lot. 4 out of 5 for sure. Like I said, some of the dynamic stuff they did here was pretty amazing. Really impressed with that. Really impressed with the colors. Love this flame on the back, and I have to find out a good way to display it so it shows all of that. Guys, if you haven't done it yet, hit that Mr. X logo to subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell notification because I keep dropping stuff like this. You don't want to miss it. Also, make sure to check out some of these other custom videos. Until I talk to you tomorrow. Take care.